Okay, welcome to our shir on Shabbos Parshas Bihaaloscha, the Sicha of Tafshin and Aleph, where the Rebbe is going to explain to us amazing ideas on the Parsha in connection to our Avodah in creating a personal Geula and for the whole world. So we find something very, very unique about Parshas Bihaaloscha, different than any other Parsha. And one of those main things are that in this parsha, we find a couple psukim that have nuns, upside down nuns, before and after. And the Chachamim explain the reason for this, that the Rebbe is going to touch on and ask a bunch of questions about in the next slide. Just a moment. Okay. So Parshas Bihaaloscha contains an aspect that does not exist in regard to all the other parshas of the Torah. Like I said, the two psukim beginning Vayhi ben Saya ha'arim are set aside by upside down nunin. Our Chachamim explain that these psukim can be considered as a separate sefer of the Torah. So according to this reckoning, there are actually 7 svarim of the Torah, meaning that Sefer Bamidbar, which is divided into 3 books, and then the other 4 svarim. Which means thus that this week's Parsha includes portions of 3 of the Torah's 7 books. So now we have several difficulties, a few questions that the Rebbe has. First of all, according to this division, the 6th book of the Torah begins directly after Vayhi ben Saya ha'arim, which begins with the words Vayhi ha'am kimis eininim, which means, and it came to pass that the people complained. This unfavorable occurrence is hardly an appropriate beginning for one of the books of the Torah. We know, the Torah doesn't even say an unclean animal as a treif animal. It says asher einena tahira. The Torah goes so far not to say something negative. So how much more so about the Yidden? And why would the Torah make a sefer named in this way? We know that each sefer, it goes by the beginning of that sefer, like Bereshis is the first word. Shemais is in the first few words. So why would there be a sefer called Vayhi ha'am kimis eininim, that the Yidden complained, in such a negative name to a parsha, and why? And what's the next question? Similarly, we don't find a name for this 6th book in the work of our sages, so why is it not mentioned? Next question is, there are extensive explanations regarding the significance of the division of the Torah into 5 books. So we know why there's Chamisha Chumshei Torah. So what is the significance of 7 books? There must be some deeper meaning here. And D, lastly, what is the reason that this division is made specifically in our Parsha, in Parshas Bihaaloscha? So there must be a connection between Parshas Bihaaloscha and this concept of Yidden complaining and number 7. So what is it? So before I go to the next slide, I want to mention that the Rebbe is going to take Rashi and use Rashi to give us the answer to all of this. And the reason for this is the Rebbe says in the Sicha, because Rashi is actually an explanation for a 5-year-old. It says that it's for Ben Chamish Lemikra. When a 5-year-old learns Torah, he can have a question, and Rashi will answer those questions of the 5-year-old. It's a pshat, it's a simple meaning, and it's a simple explanation. So the Rebbe says that the same thing is for us in regards to our Avodah, that Rashi explains to us what the Torah means for us in a way that is relevant to every single Yid, even someone who is like a child in his Avodah. Meaning, at the onset of our Avodah, even in the beginning stages when we haven't even begun to serve Hashem yet, so to say. So even somebody small and young in their Avodah. So what is this? So let's look at Rashi. Rashi is going to tell us that the word Bihaaloscha has a huge lesson for us. And it connects to the other svarim within Parshas Bihaaloscha. So what does it mean? Rashi interprets the word Bihaaloscha, the opening phrase of this parsha, to mean Ad shetehei shahavas oila me'ela, to mean to kindle until the flame rises up on its own accord. It could have said to Aaron that he will light the, lahadlik, to light the candle. Why does it say Bihaaloscha from the word aliyah? It means to rise up. That he had to light it till the flame would actually be lit on its own, it would stay lit. This is relevant within the context of our Avodas Hashem. The candles refer to our service of Torah and mitzvahs. As we know, it says that a mitzvah is a candle and a Torah is light. And similarly, to our neshamas, that the candle, it says that Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam, the candle of Hashem is the soul of man. So what is the idea here? That the light of Torah must illuminate every single aspect of our lives, even our involvement with mundane affairs, and even our surrounding environment. Through the mitzvahs, which establish a tzavsa, a bond between Hashem and our material world, the world is transformed into a dwelling for Hashem, and it makes the world into a shining light, a shining menorah which spreads godly light. And this godly light must be kindled until the flame rises up on its own accord. Now, although the menorah is lit by a yid, Aaron HaKohen, the ultimate purpose is that it shine on its own accord, without the assistance of the person lighting the menorah. Similarly, in regards to our avodas Hashem, although Hashem grants a yid the potential to carry out the service of Torah and mitzvahs, a yid also receives influence from Aaron HaKohen, who lights the candles of the souls of the Jewish people, meaning Hashem helps us through the Aharon, which is the leader of the generation. The ultimate purpose is that the candle of his soul shines on its own accord, that a yid's neshama should be permeated by this light to the extent that without any external influence, the flame rises up on its own. So I just want to mention a couple points in the Sikha. The Rebbe says that these words, Shal Heves, Ayla, and Me'ala, have significance. Shal Heves is the part of the flame that's lighting up, that's illuminated to become a big fire. So the Rebbe says that there are different parts to creating this. There's the candle, the oil, and the wick. And in order to become this flame, you need a proper wick and oil. What's the wick and the oil? The Rebbe says is bittul. Is really to just allow Hashem to work through us. And then we can have that burning fire. What's Ayla? Ayla means to move up, like we said. And the Rebbe says that a person could move in his Avaida. We can always move forward, but it might not be moving up. Meaning we can be on a specific, working on a certain plane and just, broadening our horizons in that area, in that mitzvah, for example. And the Rebbe is saying here that now we're being asked to do something different, to be Ayla, meaning to go to a completely new plane, some new territory, and really move to a new place. And Me'elaha, like we said, is from one's own. What does this mean? That it should become our nature and tendency to be moving in this fiery way to a new level, to go upwards. And like I said, how do we do this? Through bittul. So now we have a question. How do we do this? We can have opposition within ourselves, within people around us. We know this avodah also to influence others and the world around us. So how does this work? If I don't necessarily feel that I am lighting up of my own will, my body is resisting, my nature is resisting, or my child, or whoever it is that I'm having influence on is resistant to this avodah of moving in a high way, in a fiery way to serve Hashem. So the Rebbe is going to answer this now by explaining what is the true nature of a yid. So on one level, we have the resistance, but if we look deeper, we'll understand that really the true nature of our bodies and of our souls and all the parts of us is only to serve Hashem. And that goes with ourselves and with others. And when we look at it that way, we can move past the resistance and then get to a place where it's actually our nature. So in a more particular sense, there are two possible explanations of this concept of a flame rising up on its own accord. At the outset, like I said, a yid's body does not shine with the light of Torah and mitzvahs. That's the idea of having that resistance. No, I don't feel like doing that. Nevertheless, through work and effort, the body is trained so that the Torah and its mitzvahs become the body's natural and spontaneous reaction. In essence, however, this is against the nature of the body at first. Indeed, the body has to be trained to carry out the service, and without training would not do so. So that's really the first step. And then B is really the truth. From a deeper perspective, this is the body's true nature. For the true being of every entity in this physical world is essential godliness. From this perspective, the service of Torah and mitzvahs reveals, instead of running contrary to, the body's true nature. So these two explanations can be considered as two phases in a sequence. At the outset, the body conceals the light of Torah and mitzvahs, and therefore our service must involve training the body's nature, so to say. Ultimately, however, through the refinement of the body, we can reveal the essential godliness present in a Jewish body. So just like to make this practical, like whenever I have a child resisting something, I'll say, and then they'll say, I don't want to. So a lot of times I'll respond, actually, I know you really want to. Your neshama really wants you to do this mitzvah, whatever it is. So, if we look at it that way, we're able to create the right habits and transform and get to our true nature, which is only Hashem's desire. Anything else? Yeah. Okay, so now the Rebbe is going to explain what's the difference between 5 versus 7 and how that affects the 6th book of the Torah, which is the Yidden's low behavior of complaining. So we have 2 parts. There's Kedusha. They're serving Hashem within the realm of Kedusha. And then there's the Tshuva process, which is taking the low behavior and transforming it into positive, which is really the goal of why we're here. So although both 5 and 7 are of general significance, there's a difference between them. Like I said, 5 refers to the Avaida with oneself and the Avaida in the realm of Kedusha, while 7 refers to the Avaida with others and within the world at large. For this reason, there are 5 books of the Torah, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is described as having 5 students, specifically. For when describing them, I think, as they study the Torah, it is necessary to speak of only 5 categories. Nevertheless, when considering the ultimate purpose of our Avaida, that even the lowest elements of our existence become permeated with godly light. And that is the purpose of the Torah, as it says that the Torah was given solely to bring about peace in the world. It is necessary to speak within the context of 7 books, because 7 includes the world at large. And the 6th book, like we said, the book which follows the 5 levels of holiness, begins with a description of the lowest level of the Yid's behavior, which we were talking about was the complaining. Why? Why is the Torah naming a book with such a name? To show that through the process of tshuva, even this level of conduct can be elevated to the point of the flame rises up of its own accord. And that's how it connects to Parshas Bihaaloscha, which comes before it. The potential to carry out this service is derived from the 5th book and the message of the 2 psukim that we said, Vayhi ben Sayah Ha'arain, which is all about the service of refining the world at large, and how when it came to rest, it says that Hashem returned to Hashem. It's all about tshuva. And this alludes to Hashem dwelling amongst the Yidden. So that's really the whole idea of taking the low conduct, the complaining, so to say, and transforming it into positive. So I just took a couple practical applications here for myself. I think there's so much here that really applies. So first of all, for myself and for us, growing and learning of Torah and mitzvahs, we should realize that it's a process. At first, it might feel unnatural, specifically with mitzvahs that are difficult or uncomfortable, and we feel resistant. And we might need encouragement. The Rebbe actually specifies in the Sikha that Hashem helps us through specific ways, through the Rebbe, through the Raya Yisrael, who's the Aaron HaKayim, through teachers, through friends, through neighbors, and through different things in our surroundings. That's how Hashem gives us encouragement and support to help us with those difficulties and resistance. And then our job is to make good habits until it becomes second nature, while reminding ourselves that although it's difficult, it is my true desire and nature until it becomes second nature and our habit and nature, tendency. And all this also applies to others as well. We want to illuminate our surroundings to the point that others also become illuminaries and shine their own light on their own without needing this encouragement and support, that it really comes from their own light. And each person obviously in their unique way. So that's it for today. Just going to pause the recording.